Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another day of Vlogmas 2021. I am super excited to share today's video with you. It is my annual Thanksgiving prep, shop, and cook with me. I love filming this video and I love sharing with you guys. You are not going to want to miss all of the delicious dishes we had this year. So when I tell you guys this is my most favorite video of the whole entire year, I'm not even kidding. I love filming this video for you guys, and also I love having people over to my house and cooking Thanksgiving dinner because I don't know, I like to have people over. I like to cook. It's like a match made in heaven. So I thought I would show you guys what I am planning for this year. I am using my large meal planner from Carrie L. I'll link her site down below. I've been using her meal planners for years and years and years now. In the back, she has a section for gatherings, and it's really nice because you can write out, you know, the different courses that you have. So appetizers, side dishes, main courses, desserts, drinks, kids, and supplies, and then you can write your grocery list on this side and tear it off and take it to the store with you, which I've already tore it off, but I'm going to kind of go through the list of food. So I am having about 11 or 12 people over this year. My dining room table will seat 8. I can put the leaves, I guess, up, and I can fit 8 chairs around there. And then we have a card table downstairs that we'll bring up with folding chairs. That will be the kids' table. And so that's kind of what I am working with for this year. I always make the turkey. Adam is also going to smoke a ham. I've been using the same turkey recipe. This will be the 3rd year now. It's a Martha Stewart turkey recipe, and it is fantastic. Also, if you want to watch my other or my previous Thanksgiving prep shop cook with me videos, I'll link those down below. And then after Thanksgiving, I always also make turkey broth or stock out of the turkey carcass, so I'll be sharing that with you as well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through and highlight the things that I'm going to make, just so I have a list to work off of as I'm cooking for the next couple days. But my mother-in-law is going to bring deviled eggs. She always likes to bring those, and Adam likes hers better than mine. Anyway, so that's good. I'm going to be making a shrimp dip with crackers. So it's basically a cream cheese like base, and then you put cocktail sauce on top of it and chopped up shrimp. It is so delicious. And then I'm also going to make a charcuterie board, possibly a cheese ball. I haven't quite decided if I'll have time for that yet. We will see. And then I'm also going to make homemade rolls, which I know I went back and forth about whether or not I was going to make them, and I just decided to bite the bullet and do it. But I do have a really good recipe for Parker House rolls. My sister is going to bring mac and cheese. She's also going to bring the green bean casserole. My mother-in-law is going to bring chicken noodles. I am going to make the mashed potatoes. I always do those in the Instant Pot. And then I also make a sausage and apple stuffing or dressing, whatever you want to call it. It's an Ina Garten recipe. I've been using it for years. I'm going to be making cranberry sauce, corn casserole, and a sweet potato casserole. There's really not a lot of us that like sweet potatoes, but Adam's dad really likes them, and I know that he'll take them home if there's leftovers. I'm going to be making the turkey, like I said, which will get in the brine the night before I roast it. And then I always take the giblets from the inside of the turkey and make a gravy with that. It turns out really delicious. Adam is going to be smoking a ham. And then for drinks, I think I'm just gonna do like soda and lemonade. I don't know, I have wine here if anyone wants it. I think Adam has beer in the basement, so we'll see. I may make like a large pitcher. I have one of those like drink servers that I got at Costco like a long time ago. It holds several gallons of lemonade, and then it has the spigot, so people can just go up with their cup and serve themselves. For dessert, Adam's aunt is going to bring a cherry fluff, which she always brings every year, and the kids really love that. And then also she's gonna bring a pistachio dessert. I am going to make pumpkin pie, and then I'm also going to make some chocolate mint brownies, which you guys may have seen me make these before. I love the recipe. It was actually passed down to me from my mom, and I make them a lot during the holiday season. So I'm looking forward to making and eating those. And then as far as the supplies, the only thing I really need are I don't think I need anything actually, because I got napkins. We're gonna use real plates. I already knew that I had twine, so have that. The only thing that I'm gonna look for, which they might be sold out by now, are those really large Ziploc bags. They're huge. They're like large enough to hold a turkey inside them. And that's normally what I brine my turkey in. If they don't have those in stock at Walmart, I can always get a food grade, like 5-gallon bucket. I asked Adam if he had a clean 5-gallon bucket somewhere. No, he did not. So if they don't have those, I'll have to buy the bucket. But that is what I'm planning on making. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna share the grocery hauls with you guys. So I'll probably have 2 of those depending on how many stores I go to. Normally just Aldi, Walmart, and Hy-Vee, but we'll see. We'll see what I get and where, and then we'll go into the cooking. So thank you guys for being here. Happy Vlogmas, and I hope you enjoy the video. All right, so here's the first little part of my grocery haul for Thanksgiving. The rest will be from Walmart and Hy-Vee, but I got this stuff from Aldi because I was there today, and I just went ahead and grabbed things that I knew might be cheaper there than I could find. So I got 2 large packages of celery. We'll be using this to stuff the turkey for the dressing and also the turkey stock that we're gonna make. I got some green onions. We're gonna make some really delicious shrimp dip that I'm super excited about, so that will be for that. I got a bag of Granny Smith apples. I do put apples in my sausage stuffing. It turns out so delicious. We'll obviously have extra, but my kids love apples, so that's fine. I also got some carrots for the turkey stock, and then sweet potatoes. These will be for the sweet potato casserole that I'm going to make. I am going to make some cranberry sauce, and then I got extra for potentially doing some sugared cranberries. I don't know. I was just like surfing Pinterest last night and I saw all these awesome things, but who knows what I'm actually gonna have time for. I got 2 bottles of dry white wine. This is Riesling. So the turkey recipe that I use actually calls for a bottle of wine in the turkey brine, and then it also calls for a bottle of wine mixed with melted butter to baste the turkey with. So that will be for that. I got 2 loaves of this artisan Italian bread for the stuffing recipe. 2 packages of butter. I have some butter in the fridge, but you guys know when you're doing holiday cooking, you just run out of butter so fast, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough, so I got 2 pounds of that. I'm gonna do a charcuterie board, and so I went ahead and picked up some pitted olives. Those will go for that. And then I just got an assortment of meats and cheeses. I got this champagne cheddar cheese, this aged Gouda, and some smoked cheddar cheese. And then I found some speck and some Italian salami. So I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna find later on when I go to Hy-Vee, but I may pick up some more things from there for the meat and cheese board as well. I got some sweetened condensed milk and a can of pumpkin. I believe these are both for the pumpkin pie. And then there's a recipe that calls for evaporated milk. I can't remember what it is, but you'll be seeing that at some point. 1 container of heavy whipping cream for a recipe. And then all of the Thanksgiving charcuterie boards that I looked at on Pinterest had garnished with these maple leaf cookies, and I just thought that it looked so cute and festive. So I went ahead and grabbed some of these. These are really good anyway. Trader Joe's has them too. So got those. And then the cracker part of it, I got these olive oil breadsticks. These look really awesome if you kind of like stand them up in a glass. It kind of gives the board some height, and then you can also wrap them with the meat. It's really good that way too. I got some wheat crackers and then some eggs. So I'm gonna put this stuff away, and you guys will be seeing another haul right about now. All right, so here's everything that I got from Walmart. I was just like putting everything out on the counter, and I was like, I don't really feel like I had to get that much for Thanksgiving this year, but I just did a pantry reorganization, and I feel like that gave me a good idea of what I already had in my freezer and pantry. So then I wasn't buying unnecessary things. So that's helpful, right? Okay, I got some flat leaf parsley. This is gonna be for the stuffing or dressing, and then also for some of the stock for the turkey. I got some sliced Colby Jack cheese. I may like cut some pumpkins and leaves out of this and use that for the charcuterie board. Got 2 containers of, not containers, bags, I guess, of light brown sugar. Adam needs that for the ham, and then I also need it for a few baking recipes. I did pick up 3 2-packs of the Philadelphia cream cheese. I just could not pass this up because it was like $3.50 a package, which is a really good price for brand name cream cheese. I needed 4, but I went ahead and got another one just to have in the refrigerator. I needed more chicken bouillon, and this is what I like to use to reconcentrate. It's really good, so I got more of that. Some half and half for a recipe. Adam also needed some apple juice for the smoked ham, so got that for him. And then I never buy regular soda, you guys know that, but I saw that they had this Mountain Dew gingerbread snapped I don't know, it's like a holiday flavor. So I thought we would maybe share a little bit of that. I don't know, it sounds weird to me. I got some russet potatoes for mashed potatoes. I just got a 5-pound bag because I already have some here at home. So I think that'll be more than enough. I got some fresh bay leaves. So we'll be using this for the brine for the turkey. Some garlic, some cloves. This is also for the brine for the turkey. And then I also got some bacon. I feel like I needed this for a recipe, but now I can't remember what it's for. But also it was on sale, and bacon's really pricey right now. So even if I don't need it for Thanksgiving, we'll use it for breakfast one day. I got some sharp cheddar cheese. I think this is going to be for the cheese ball that I might make to go on the charcuterie board. I don't know. I have all these ideas swirling around in my brain right now, so we'll see what actually happens. I got some mozzarella cheese. I just needed to have some of this on hand for when I make lasagnas for lasagna love. I got some Cool Whip. I actually really like Cool Whip rather than whipped cream on my pumpkin pie. I know, weird, right? Got a container of that. Some yellow onions, some corn flakes. This is actually going to be for the sweet potato casserole topping. I got some kosher salt just to make sure we had enough. I'll need some of that for the turkey brine. And then I needed some canola oil for a recipe, but I was also all out. So I decided to get a big jug of this. That way I could keep it in the pantry and use it for other things as well. I got some lemonade. I will make some of this tomorrow in my big beverage dispenser. And then I got a couple of different seasoning rubs that Adam wanted to try. So he's gonna do a spiral cut ham on the smoker, but he wanted a rub that he could use that wasn't salty. So I thought we would try these. I'm not quite sure which one he's gonna use, but I got the Fiesta salt-free brisket rub, the seasoned pepper. That just basically comes with pepper and spices. There's no salt in it. And then the smokehouse maple seasoning. I got some marshmallows. This is for the sweet potato casserole. Some cheddar cheese sauce. This is not for Thanksgiving. This is for some pretzels that we have in the freezer. I got some wheat thins for a dip that I'm gonna make, and then some of these Ray's New York bagels. I've never seen these before. I just saw them in the freezer section at Walmart. I love authentic New York bagels, so I thought I would give these a try. I got some Dawn Power Wash. I haven't had this in a while, and I thought with all of the dish scrubbing that I will be doing this week, that would be a good idea to have. I did also get some more all-purpose flour just because I was running low on that. And then I did get this silverware tray. This is actually silverware that I picked up at Costco, so it's like my nice fancy silverware, and we're gonna use this tomorrow along with my new china for Thanksgiving. So you guys know me, super fancy. To brine the turkey, I got a 5-gallon bucket. Now normally I do this in big Ziploc bags, but I do feel like this will give better coverage for the turkey, and not to mention they're all out of the big Ziploc bags, so I should have planned ahead better for that. But at any rate, this will work. It was like $3 or something like that, so not bad. So I'll need to wash this out, and we'll use that to brine the turkey. And then I also got this wood serving board. I've wanted something like this for a while. This was around $20. It's the Better Homes and Gardens brand. So I'm gonna use this to build my meat and cheese board for tomorrow. So excited to add that to my arsenal of servingware. And then I also got some drinks for tomorrow, some different sodas and stuff. So some Diet Orange Crush, some sparkling cherry limeade, and some Diet Mountain Dew. All right, so I'm gonna make this shrimp cocktail dip, but for that I need cooked shrimp. So instead of buying cooked shrimp, I thawed some out that I had in my freezer. This is just shrimp that I have seasoned with some seasoned salt, and all I'm gonna do is boil it until it's done, cool it, and then we're gonna use that for the top of the dip. So I've got some water here in a saucepan. I'm just gonna add 1 lemon squeezed into the water, and then also add the lemon in there. And then once this comes to the boil, I'll pop the shrimp in. Basically just boil it for like 2 to 3 minutes, take it out and shock it in cold water. Okay, so the first step in all of this Thanksgiving dinner is to make the brine for the turkey, because that has to sit overnight. So I've got my Dutch oven here. I'm gonna put 1 quart of water in there, 1.5 cups of kosher salt. I have these fresh bay leaves, so I'm gonna add 6 of those, 2 tablespoons of coriander seeds. I cannot find those where I live, so I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of cumin seeds, and then I'm just gonna sprinkle in some ground coriander. I did this last year and it worked out just fine. You need 2 tablespoons of black peppercorns, 1 tablespoon of fennel seeds, and then about 1 teaspoon of dried mustard seeds. Now this is a concentrated version of the brine mixture. So what we're gonna do is bring this to a boil, just boil it for a little bit to make sure that all the salt is dissolved. And then we'll be kind of mixing this with a bunch of fresh cold water over the turkey, along with a bottle of wine to flavor it. All right, so my water is boiling for the shrimp, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that. And again, this cooks super quick, so really only like 2 to 3 minutes, just until they turn pink. And while these are cooking, I'm gonna grab some ice water to put them in when they're done. All right, so these are done. So I'm gonna remove these and add them to the ice water. It's not super important that these be very strongly flavored because we are gonna add them to a dip, which you'll see there'll be other flavors added. If you were gonna eat these plain, that might be different. You might wanna season them more. So I'm gonna let these cool until they are cold. Okay, so our brine has come to a boil. I'm just gonna give this a quick stir and then I will turn off the heat and let this cool for about 5 minutes. Okay, so I've got my 5-gallon bucket here. I went ahead and washed this out with hot soapy water and rinsed it really well. I'm adding about 24 cups of cool water to here, and then I'm gonna add my brine solution. Okay, I'm gonna give this a stir. 1 bottle of dry white wine, 2 onions that I have sliced thinly, 6 crushed garlic cloves, and some thyme, and then we can add the turkey. All right, so my turkey is all thawed out. I rinsed it. I took the giblets and the neck out. I have about a 26-pound turkey. It's just a little less than 26 pounds. I'm gonna go ahead and lower this in here. Let's get that brine down into there so this doesn't overflow. Here we go. Uh-oh. Oh no! That is like right to the top. I'm probably gonna have to take a little bit of liquid out of there. So I took a little bit of water out of that bucket so that everything wouldn't overflow. And I took one of the shelves out of this fridge out here in our garage. So the 5-gallon bucket does fit perfectly in there with the turkey. I went ahead and put the lid on. So that's just gonna sit there in the brine overnight. Ideally, you would do this for 24 hours. This is probably gonna be in there about, I don't know, maybe 12 to 13. It all works just fine. I've done it for 12 hours before. I've done it for 24. They both taste delicious. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do is make the turkey stock for the gravy. So I'm just gonna put about a tablespoon of canola oil into my Dutch oven. I'm heating this up over about medium-high heat. I've got the turkey neck and the giblets, so we're gonna saute those first and then add like some onion, carrot, celery, and some water and boil this down and make a stock out of it. So if you've never purchased a turkey before, it does come with the turkey neck, and then it comes with gizzards and the heart and liver and everything inside of it. Usually everything is like in a paper bag inside of the turkey cavity. And so you just want to take those out, rinse them off, and then I'm putting them in the Dutch oven with some aromatics. So I've got some carrots, celery, onion, and garlic. Season it with salt and pepper, and then you basically just want to get a good sear on everything. At this point, you're not trying to cook anything through. And then after that, just go ahead and add some water. Okay, so what I did there was I just basically kind of got a sear on all of the turkey parts and the veggies. There's carrots in there, onions, celery, and some garlic cloves. And we're gonna reduce this and boil it down for about an hour and a half. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of black peppercorns. And then here I've got 1 bay leaf, some sprigs of thyme, and some rosemary. So we're just gonna give this a stir, bring it to a boil, and we'll turn it down to a simmer and just let it go until we have some delicious turkey stock. So for the sausage stuffing, or I mean basically for any kind of stuffing or dressing, you do want stale bread, which means I'm gonna cut this into cubes and leave it out overnight for it to harden. I only need 1.5 pounds of bread for this recipe, and each one of these loaves is a pound. So I'm just gonna cut this into half and we'll use this part for something else. Or I'll save this one because we might be able to cut it up and use it for charcuterie or something. So one bit of wisdom I have is be very careful when you're using a serrated bread knife because they are very, very sharp. And one year I did end myself up in the ER because I cut my finger bad and needed stitches with a serrated knife. So just be careful. Now you can use any type of bread for this particular recipe. I believe the original recipe calls for sourdough, but sometimes it's hard for me to find crusty sourdough where I live. So I normally just buy whatever crusty bread I can find. You want something that's like hearty because you need it to stand up to the cooking process that you're going to use to make the dressing with. I don't know, do you guys call it stuffing or dressing? I always call it stuffing, even though I know I'm not really stuffing my turkey with it, but okay. Let me get this chopped up. You want it in about 1-inch cubes. As I'm watching this back, I'm just like looking at Murphy's nose there in the bottom left-hand corner. That just like cracks me up. He's always there in the kitchen watching me cook, hoping for something to drop on the floor. But definitely be careful with the serrated knife. Like I said, it is very sharp and can cut you. Okay, so here's all my cubed bread. I'm just gonna let this sit on a baking tray overnight, just here on the dining room table. You can actually do this for several days if you want to. It just depends, but I'll be fine with it sitting overnight. And a shortcut, if you don't have time to let it sit overnight, you can always dry it out in the oven as well. So we're gonna go ahead and make pumpkin pie. So I'm going to use the Libby's pumpkin pie recipe. That is the one that I think everyone recommends. So I'm gonna use that for the filling, but then for the crust, I'm gonna use my recipe for perfect pie crust, which is out of my cookbook. I'll link this down below, but it's super simple. You can make it in the food processor. So for the pumpkin pie, I need pumpkin, evaporated milk. In here I've got some sugar, salt, cloves, ginger, and cinnamon, a couple eggs, and then some butter for the pie crust. All right, so we're gonna make our pie crust in the food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can do this with a pastry cutter. It works just fine. I've got 2 cups of flour in a sieve here. I'm gonna sift that into the bowl of the food processor along with 1 teaspoon of salt. So you don't necessarily need a sifter to sift flour. You just need like a fine mesh sieve. So I'm just gonna try to be careful and not get this all over the place, which is what I normally do, but this will help make the pie crust super silky, and it will help avoid lumps. Once you get down to the end, you can just push the remainder through, and then what you're gonna be left with is the salt, which you can just pour right in. Okay, so I've got 11 tablespoons of butter, which I cubed, and this butter is cold. You can put the butter in the freezer. I don't really find that to be super necessary. And then you just wanna pulse this until it is the consistency of fine crumbs. Okay, so in this measuring cup, I've got some cold water, and I put a splash of white vinegar in there. That helps keep the crust flaky. So I'm gonna turn this on and then just stream in the cold water, about 1/4 cup of it, until the crust comes together. Okay, so you can see how this crust came together into a ball. So we're gonna roll this out and put it in the pan. Okay, so I dusted my work surface on my butcher block here with some flour, and I'm just turning that dough out onto the counter, and then I'm just gonna knead it a few times. I really like this French rolling pin. I can link it down below. I got it on Amazon. It's super inexpensive, and I like it because it has an even thickness and it's really long, so you can essentially roll like large, circles of pie crust. This particular recipe is super easy to work with, so if you're a beginner, this would be a great recipe to try, but basically I'm just rolling this out into a circle. Okay, so I've rolled my pie crust out into a circle, well, a little bit of a circle. So the next thing I'm gonna do is take my rolling pin and roll up my pie crust on my rolling pin, because that's how I'm gonna transfer it to the pie plate. So I've got a deep dish pie plate here, a glass one. I'm just gonna spray this briefly with a little bit of spray. This has a lot of butter in it, so you don't necessarily need to do that. I just wanna make sure it doesn't stick, and then I'm gonna unroll this over like that. You will get some extra crust with this particular recipe, but that's fine. You can just discard it, or you can also bake it with butter and cinnamon and sugar, and it makes a really delicious treat. So you can just pat this pie crust into the pan, and then I'm just gonna take a knife and kind of cut off the edges. Don't be intimidated by pie crust. It's honestly not that difficult, and the more you practice, the more you're gonna get familiar with it. And if you end up like with a tear in your crust, you kind of just patch it together with a little bit of water. So I'm gonna kind of roll up the edge a little bit here and try to do a crimp. I'm not very good at this, by the way. I struggle with this part every single year, but you know what? The crimp isn't the most important part, the taste is, so that's what I always tell myself. So there's my crust. I like to blind bake this a little bit because I feel like it doesn't have a doughy bottom. So I'm just gonna line this with a little bit of foil. I'm not gonna even put anything in the foil. I'm just gonna line it like that. I'm gonna put this in a 425-degree oven, maybe just for about 5 to 7 minutes while I'm making the filling. All right, so as you can see, I had quite a bit of pie crust here, so I am gonna make some of these cinnamon sugar crisps. Basically, you just brush these pie crust strips with melted butter, sprinkle them with cinnamon sugar, and stick them in the oven. So I have a little bit of melted butter here. I'm just gonna brush crush these quick. Okay, and then this is a cinnamon sugar cookie spice blend from Primal Palette. It's really good. So I'm just gonna sprinkle this over, and I'll probably bake these, I don't know, 425 for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, just until they're nice and golden brown. Got a big bowl here. I'm gonna go ahead and mix up my filling for the pumpkin pie. So I'm gonna add 2 eggs, and I'll go ahead and beat those until they are well combined. Next, I'm gonna add my sugar and my salt and my spices. Oh my gosh, that smells delicious. Okay, so I've got 1 can of pumpkin here, so I'm just going to add that. So I wanna make sure you have pumpkin puree and not pumpkin pie filling, because it is 2 different things. And then while I'm combining this, I'm also going to add 1 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. All right, I've got my pie crust here that I have par baked, and some of it has fallen down, but that's fine. I told you guys I'm not an expert with crimping the pie crust. It doesn't always stay in place. Okay, so we're gonna pour in the pumpkin filling. Ooh, I cannot wait to eat this. Okay, so this is optional, but I cut out some pie crust leaves using a little cookie cutter. I'm gonna have to wait till this is partially baked and then add the leaves to the top. So I'm gonna put this in the oven, bake it at 425 degrees for 15 minutes, reduce to 350, and bake for 40 minutes. Okay, so this is what our turkey stock looks like after it has been reduced. What I'm gonna go ahead and do now is just remove kind of the bigger chunks and strain this and stick it in the refrigerator, and then tomorrow we will have delicious turkey stock for gravy. All right, so this is how much turkey stock I ended up with. I probably reduced this a little bit too much, but that's fine. What we'll do is we will put this in the fridge. The fat will rise to the top and solidify, and then we can use that to make a roux tomorrow and make turkey gravy. Okay, so I'm gonna get started on the sweet potatoes tonight. So I went ahead and scrubbed these. I'm just gonna poke a few holes in each one. And since the pie is baking at 350 degrees, these also need to bake at 350 degrees until they're tender for about an hour. So I'm gonna stick those in there at the same time. This is something easy that we can do ahead of time tonight to make it easier in the morning. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the shrimp dip. This is something that you can make the night before, and it's super easy because it can sit in the fridge. So in here I've got 1 package of cream cheese, some mayo, some sour cream, and this is optional, but I like to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper and some dried dill weed, and I'm just gonna combine this until it's smooth. Okay, so I've got a square baking dish here. I think this is an 8x8. You can use a plate if you want to. Basically, this is a layered dip, so you're going to spread out the cream cheese sour cream mixture on the bottom, and then we're gonna top this with some cocktail sauce and some chopped shrimp and some green onions, and it is delicious with Ritz crackers. Okay, the next step is to put some cocktail sauce on the top. So you can just use prepared cocktail sauce. I've got some of this left in the fridge, but I'm probably gonna need another bottle. I'll see. The recipe calls for 2 cups. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of spread this over the cream cheese mixture. I'm gonna try to leave like a little bit of a border on the outside, just kind of so people know what's in it. All right, and then the next step is to top it. So I've got my cooked shrimp here. We're gonna chop this up because this shrimp is too large to be scooped up with crackers, obviously. So I'm just gonna kind of dice this up into like tiny pieces. I've also seen this made with crab meat too. So like imitation or regular crab meat on the top, that's good as well. I prefer it with just shrimp, but you can do it however you like. Okay, so next layer is the chopped up shrimp. Now, if you don't want to chop up shrimp, you can buy pre-cooked shrimp. You can buy canned shrimp. There is normally pre-cooked frozen shrimp in the grocery store. Then all you'd have to do is thaw it out. So I've got some green onions here, and once again, I have had this shrimp dip many ways. Some recipes do not call for this, but I think it adds like a really nice flavor and also just a little bit of color to it. So I would recommend adding these. I'm just gonna thinly slice these. I'll add these to the top. All right, so here's our shrimp cocktail dip. I'm gonna cover this and put it in the fridge, and we'll be able to have it for an appetizer tomorrow with Ritz crackers. It's really delicious. All right, so another thing we can make tonight is the cranberry sauce, because that can just sit in the fridge overnight and chill. So I'm gonna take half a cup of cranberries and set that aside. But in this salad spinner, I've got 12 ounces of cranberries. I'm gonna add the zest of an orange, and then so as not to waste the orange, I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze the juice in there there as well. I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons of water, and then we're gonna add 1 cup of just regular white sugar. So I'm gonna give this a stir, and I'm gonna cook this over low heat. And all in total, we're probably gonna cook this for about 20 to 25 minutes, just until everything is combined and disintegrated. All right, so our pumpkin pie is out of the oven. This baked for 40 minutes. I'm gonna err on the side of saying that it's done because we don't wanna overcook it. That way it'll still be creamy on the inside. So I'm gonna let this cool at room temperature, and then when it's cool, I'll stick it in the fridge and we'll have it tomorrow. Okay, so here's my cranberry sauce. So basically I've cooked this for about 20 minutes. You can see that it's mostly kind of disintegrated now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in my whole cranberries. I'll give that a stir and basically just kind of let this cool off, and then I'll stick it in the fridge for tomorrow. All right, so here's my completed cranberry sauce. I garnished it with a little bit of orange peel and some rosemary. This turned out so good. I would highly recommend using the orange zest and the orange juice. I really feel like people who like canned cranberry sauce better have not had like proper orange flavored homemade cranberry sauce. But anyway, I'm gonna put this in the fridge and we'll have it tomorrow. Okay, so I got these flowers at Aldi today, these fresh flowers. Some of them are looking a little bit worse for the wear. So I am going to pull out the dead ones and make an arrangement in this jar for tomorrow. So I have to tell you guys, if I would have had more time, I probably would have taken these flowers back to Aldi and gotten my money back, because I know they have that like twice as nice guarantee or whatever that is. But these flowers were really not in good shape. I should have noticed that when I purchased them, but like I said, I was in a hurry and I kind of just wanted some fall flowers for my table, but I kind of did the best that I could and just arranged them in a jar. Either way, it was some good color on my table, but they weren't in the best shape for sure. All right, so I think this is the last thing I'm gonna make tonight is these chocolate mint brownies, because they need to be made ahead of time so that they can kind of set up in the refrigerator. So I've got 1 stick of butter and a cup of sugar in here. I'll have all these recipes down below, by the way, if I didn't mention that before. I've got 4 eggs, 1 can of Hersheys Syrup, which is actually about 2 cups. I've got that here. They don't really sell cans of Hersheys Syrup anymore. This is an older recipe, so you kind of just have to make do. And then I've got some flour. So I'm using my hand mixer. The first thing that I'm gonna do is beat this butter and sugar until it is creamy. Okay, so while I'm beating the butter and sugar, I'm gonna go ahead and add the eggs one at a time until everything's mixed together. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and pour the chocolate syrup in while I'm mixing this, and then I'll add the flour. Okay, so I've got a 9x13 metal baking dish here. I'm gonna spray this with cooking spray. I'm gonna add some parchment paper. This is optional, but I would highly recommend it, because otherwise the brownies will really have a hard time coming out of the pan. I'm gonna spray this one more time. And here's the brownie layer. So I went ahead and mixed the flour in off camera. I'm gonna put this in the pan, and then these will bake. We'll cool them completely, and then we're gonna make a mint frosting layer, and then on top another chocolate layer. So kind of like an Andes mint brownie, I guess you would say. I feel like I was just shy of the correct amount of Hersheys syrup, so could be that I'm a little bit short, but whatever, it'll still work out. We're gonna put chocolate on the top of them also. Okay, so 350 for about 35 minutes. All right, so my sweet potatoes are finished. I'm gonna go ahead and peel the skin off of these and cut them up and get them into this mixing bowl. I said that the brownies were gonna be the last thing that I made tonight, but I'm gonna go ahead and make the filling for the sweet potato casserole. So we got the sweet potatoes in there, butter, eggs, sweetened condensed milk, salt, sugar, yep, salt and vanilla. So turn it on very low, like number 2. Yep, just let it go. So we're gonna mix this all up until it's creamy. All right, so here is the base for the sweet potato casserole. I'm gonna go ahead and cover this up, stick it in the fridge, and I will see you guys in the morning. Hey guys, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on Thanksgiving. Here is our turkey that has brined overnight. So I'm gonna get this out of the brine and we're gonna prepare it to go into the oven. So I've got my turkey here. The recipe actually says to stuff it with stuffing, but I don't like to do that because I have never liked to stuff my turkey, because I always just want to make sure that the stuffing is cooked properly and nothing is raw inside. I'm gonna rub this with softened butter. I've already put this in a roasting pan and tied the legs together. This never works because the skin is so slippery, so we're just gonna try to put this on here as best we can. So I'm gonna go ahead and season the outside of the turkey with salt and pepper. This roasting rack I just bought it on Amazon. I can link it in the description box. It's just a Cuisinart roasting pan with a rack in it. pepper. All right, so the key to golden brown turkey skin is we're gonna combine, I've got 3 sticks of melted butter in here. I'm gonna add in 1 bottle of white wine, and this is a piece of cheesecloth. What we're gonna end up doing is using this to cover the skin of the turkey. We're gonna mix it into the melted wine and butter, and then as we continually baste the turkey and it cooks, it will help create that golden brown skin that is in the Norman Rockwell picture that we also desire. Okay, so I've got my oven set at 450 degrees. We're gonna roast this turkey at that temperature for 30 minutes, and then we're gonna turn the oven down to, I think, 350 and cook it the rest of the way. And throughout the whole time, we'll be basting it with the wine and butter mixture. So I have a turkey baster. I guess it's not a turkey baster, it's just a baster. And then we will continuously baste it as it cooks. All right, so the turkey's been in the oven for a couple of hours. I turned the temperature down to 350, and I've basically just been basting it every 45 minutes or so with the wine and butter mixture. The original recipe called for like a 20-pound turkey, and I think I have a 26-pound turkey, so it's gonna take a little bit longer than the recipe says. All right, so we're gonna make the mint frosting for the brownies. The chocolate topping does need to set up in the fridge for a couple hours, so I'll be ready by dessert. So I've got 1 stick of butter here in my stand mixer. I'm gonna add 2 cups of powdered sugar. Just gonna whip this up. While it's running, I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons of milk. So that's nice and fluffy. We're gonna add about half a teaspoon of peppermint extract. Don't add too much. And then you can color these however you want. I always use green because it's, you know, Andy's mint brownies, but I think red would be also really pretty for Christmas if you wanted to do that. And I'm just gonna mix this together and then we'll frost the brownies. All right, so I've got my brownies here. I'm gonna go ahead and put my frosting on the top. Okay, and then I like to use an offset spatula to spread this over the brownies, and I try to get it into as even of a layer as possible, because obviously when we slice them, you want them to kind of have even layers. So for the chocolate layer, I've got some melted butter here in this bowl that I melted in the microwave. I'm gonna add 1 cup of chocolate chips, stir this around, and then I'm gonna pop this back in the microwave and just melt all this together until it is smooth. So we're stirring this together. And then when you're spreading out the chocolate, you have to be super careful. You don't want any of the mint layer to get into the chocolate layer. Ideally, you might, you know, refrigerate this in between layers, but I don't have time for that right now. And normally I do this without a problem. So we'll stick this in the fridge and then they'll be done in a couple hours. So we're gonna go ahead and make the rolls. I've got 2 cups of milk here that I warmed up. In the microwave, you don't want it boiling, you just want it warm. And then I'm gonna add 4.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast. I'm doubling this recipe. I'm gonna add half a cup of warm water. And we're gonna add 4 tablespoons of sugar. I'm gonna give this a mix with the dough hook and just let the yeast proof for a little bit. Okay, so my yeast is activated. You can tell because it gets kind of foamy and it smells like freshly baked bread. Hello. So we're gonna add 1 stick of butter that I softened. Well, I kind of melted it in the microwave. Sorry about that. And then I'm gonna turn the dough hook on and add in 2 eggs. You never had Parker House rolls before. They're really like delicious and rich. All right, I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of salt. Depending on how, you know, humid your environment is and all of that, you'll need 5 to 6 cups of flour. So I'm gonna start out with 5. I'm gonna give this a mix. As this mixes, you'll need to scrape down the sides of the bowl just to make sure that you get all the flour. And basically we're just gonna mix this and keep adding flour until the dough forms a ball and pulls away from the side of the bowl. Okay, so I'm gonna flour my counter. By the way, I did have to use quite a bit more flour than the recipe called for. Okay, so here's my dough. I just added some flour just so I could knead it until it's smooth. So this is smooth. I've got a large bowl here. I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of olive oil to the bottom. And then you just wanna grease your bowl. I'm gonna add the dough in there, turn it around, and then this is gonna rise for about an hour and a half. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the stuffing. I've got 1 stick of butter in a skillet here. I'm gonna chop up some apples, some onions, and some celery and get that sauteing. Okay, so I'm going to start out by chopping my onions. Essentially, I really follow this Ina Garten recipe pretty much to a T, except I do end up normally adding extra broth to it because I find that the recipe as written is a little bit dry. But what you're going to do is you're basically going to saute all of your veggies first. So I'm chopping up my onion, celery, and getting those into a pan with the butter. For the apples, you don't need to peel these, so just cut the sides off the apple and then just basically dice them up. I'm using my favorite Misen knife here. You guys know that I work with them every once in a while here on my channel, but even if I didn't, I totally recommend their knives. I've gotten some questions from you guys about what type of chef's knife to gift for the holidays, and I actually just noticed that they have Misen knives on Amazon too, so I can link them down below. I'll link my discount code down below as well. This video is not sponsored, but like I said, I recommend them without reservation. They're super smart. They're smart and sharp. Yes, they are super sharp and they will last a lifetime. So here I'm just getting my celery diced up and into the pan. Okay, so I took the turkey out of the oven. I'm gonna carefully remove the cheesecloth. We're gonna baste it with the pan juices and stick it back in for about 30 minutes. So see, look how golden brown and delicious that makes the skin. So I've got my apples, onions, and celery in here with a stick of butter. I added a little bit of salt, and then I just added a few sprigs of thyme just because I had it in the fridge. And I'm gonna cook this over medium-high heat until all of the veggies and apples are tender. So to mix up the stuffing, I've got my big roasting pan here. This is what is the easiest to mix everything together in. So this is the bread I dried out last night. I'm just gonna add that. I'm gonna add the sauteed veggies to the bread cubes. All right, so in the same pan, I've got some sweet Italian sausage. So I'm just gonna brown this up and crumble it, and when it's cooked, I'll add it to the bread cubes. So while the sausage is cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and season this with about 1 tablespoon of salt and pepper. And then the recipe only calls for 1 cup of chicken broth, but I always add a little bit more because otherwise I feel like it's kind of dry. I'm gonna take my thyme sprigs out and add 2 cups of chicken broth. Okay, so I actually ended up adding 3 cups of broth to this because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't dry. I'm gonna go ahead and add my cooked sausage in. Ooh, this smells delicious. Now, this is optional. You can put dried cranberries in here. I'm not going to. I don't really prefer it like that, but you can if you want to. Okay, let me grab my baking dish. All right, so I've got a 9x13 baking dish. I'm just gonna spray it and then carefully try to add the dressing, stuffing, whatever. This is done. It only has to bake for about 40 minutes, so I'm not gonna put it in quite yet. All right, guys. Here is the turkey in all of its glory. So what I'm gonna do is cover this with foil and cover it with a couple of kitchen towels just to let it stay warm. There's a bay leaf while we cook the rest of the food. All right, so we gotta do the second rise of the rolls so you can see how beautiful my dough has risen. So we're gonna punch this down and roll it out to about 1/2 inch. I'm gonna do this in 2 batches. Okay, so basically for Parker house rolls, once you cut them into a circle like this, you wanna brush them with some butter in the middle, fold them over, and then that's how you put them on your greased pan. Okay, so here are my rolls. I'm gonna go ahead and cover these with a tea towel and I'll let them rise for an hour again before they bake. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and make the corn casserole. I cannot find my box of Jiffy corn muffin mix anywhere in my pantry. And I know it has to be in there because I just bought it at Walmart like a couple weeks ago. So that's always nice. But anyway, I looked up online and you can do a copycat sort of corn muffin just with stuff I have on hand, so I'm gonna use that. So in here I've got 1 stick of melted butter, 2 eggs. I'm gonna add in a cup of sour cream, 1 can of whole kernel corn, don't drain it, 1 can of cream corn. I'm gonna add my corn muffin mix, homemade. Okay, so after everything is mixed together, I'm just going to grease my baking dish and pour in the corn mixture. This will bake in an oven for usually about 45 minutes. All right, I'm gonna make the topping for the sweet potato casserole. So in here I've got half a stick of butter that I melted. I'm gonna add about a cup of pecans, maybe a little bit less. I'm gonna crunch up some cornflakes in there. So maybe just about 1 cup. Half cup of brown sugar. All right, 2 cups of marshmallows. So I'm gonna stir this together. This sweet potato casserole ended up being super delicious. This is a new recipe that I tried this year. Here's the base that I refrigerated from the night before. I'm just putting the topping onto there and just spreading that out. Here are my rolls after the second rise. I am putting those into the oven along with my corn and sweet potatoes, and now I'm going to get started on my gravy. So here is a mixture of butter and flour that I've cooked in a sauce pot. I went ahead and added that stock, and then here is my charcuterie board that I fixed up. This was super fun and it turned out really, really delicious. I really love how it turned out and everyone really enjoyed it. So here is all of the food that we had for today: mashed potatoes, some macaroni and cheese, homemade cranberry sauce, turkey, ham. We also had some stuffing, some gravy, some corn casserole, noodles. We also had the sweet potato casserole. No shortage of food, some cherry fluff. The rolls turned out so delicious. Here's a look at my plate. This was so good. I was seriously blown away by the food that everyone brought. We also had desserts. We had pumpkin pie, pecan pie, pistachio dessert, some mint chocolate brownies. Delicious. All right, so it's a couple days after Thanksgiving, and I am going to go ahead and make some turkey stock out of the turkey carcass and wings that we had left over. So essentially what I did after Thanksgiving was I just put the turkey in this big stock pot and stuck it in the fridge covered with foil. That way I didn't have to do this right away after I was like cooking all day on Thanksgiving. I could wait and do it now. I have a little bit more energy. So basically I've got the turkey in there. I've got 2 onions that I halved. I've got some carrots, some celery, bay leaf, rosemary, thyme, salt, and some peppercorns. Basically you can just use any kind of like root vegetables and seasonings that you'd want. So this will probably need to simmer for about 2 hours, and you can see right now that it's kind of sticking up out of the pot, but as it continues to cook down, I'll be able to fit everything in there. And just simmer this on low. If you leave the pot uncovered, it will concentrate and make sort of like a richer, thicker stock. So that's what I'm planning on doing. Okay, so here's my turkey stock. This cooked for, I'd say about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. It's done now, but I'm gonna let it cool a little bit before I strain it just because it's super, super hot. So you can see here that this turkey kind of, like I said, boiled down, and there will be some extra pieces of like turkey meat left in there, which I'll try to pull out if I can. It depends how like disintegrated it is, but yeah, let me let this cool and then I'll show you guys how I strain it and pack it up. This is actually the insert to this big pasta pot. This is a Cuisinart. I can link it down below. It's great for making stock in, but it's also great for pasta. I've got this strainer insert in here, and basically I'm just gonna pour this over here and let all the solids drain out, and then the broth will be left in the bottom of the dish. All right, so here's my turkey stock, quite a bit actually. I'm gonna transfer it back into this pot, which is the original pot that I cooked it in, and then I'm gonna put it back in the refrigerator and let it cool off, because then the fat will rise to the top and I can scrape that off before I freeze it. Okay, so here is my turkey stock. It's kind of funny, I actually got exactly 5 quarts. Before I put it into the containers here, I did try and spoon off some of the grease. It's kind of hard to do because it wasn't quite all solidified, but I did the best I could. So this will go, probably I'll put it into the fridge first to make sure it's good and cold, and then transfer whatever I don't want to use right away to the freezer. You can also do this with a chicken carcass. If you roast a chicken, you can repurpose it and make it into chicken stock. It's really, really good. So highly recommend this. I think for at least part of it, I'm gonna save out this week and maybe make some turkey and dumplings. All right, so what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this video? Like I said, this is always one of my favorite videos to film and put out every year. And I always notice, like right before Thanksgiving, that people go back and watch the previous ones because they're trying to get like Thanksgiving inspiration. I can't speak. So I always think that's really cool too. But everything turned out really, really wonderful this year. The thing that I think was one of the lessons that I learned a few years back was to not really experiment with recipes. especially when you're cooking for a lot of people and you're kind of like under pressure to put out a holiday meal. Like, it's really not the time to try to try new recipes. And so really the only recipe that I tried new this year was the sweet potato casserole. I've made it before, so it wasn't entirely new, but I've never made that particular recipe. The recipe I used this year was a New York Times recipe, and it turned out really good. So I'll definitely be making that again. But other than that, I didn't really have any new recipes, so you know, tried and true is where it's at. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you are enjoying Vlogmas. Like I said, I'll be posting a new video every day this month, God willing. Might miss a few days here and there because of everything that's been going on, but I will try my best. Thank you so much for your support. If you are not subscribed, I would appreciate you doing so, and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.